Hello and welcome back to the channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff if you enjoy the video. And today I am talking to my cousin, who you may think we look alike, and we do slightly. I wear a hat because I'm bald, but my cousin Thomas is not accepting yet, and he's still trying to keep it going up there.
I'm clean.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little today about Leeds United. My cousin is a Leeds fan, and obviously I am a Sunderland fan. We are very parallel at the moment. It's fair to say a lot of people are sort of bunching these newly promoted teams together simply because of the last few years where these newly promoted teams have all suffered relegation. So we're going to see where Leeds are at, sort of compare it to where Sunderland are at, get a feel for our rivals around us in the league table. And before we start, from my position, I would love to see obviously Sunderland stay up, but also Leeds stay up. I think it's good for the Premier League to have both. Are you as nice as me, or do you just care about Leeds? Is Leeds the only priority for you?
No, I'd like to see both of us stay up. I think we need to stop this trend of the promoted teams just getting relegated all the time. I think Leeds are probably, for me, in the best position. But then after that, probably Sunderland, and I'm trying to get onto it with the business you've done in the window. Early doors, I think you set yourself up really well for that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. Because I think that Sunderland and Leeds, in fact, we'll just dive into that straight away. The comparison between the two, I think as a Sunderland fan, I really like Sunderland's business. I think we started from a weaker position. Obviously, we were, 24 points behind, but Sunderland basically gave up on the top two race after the loss to Ellen Road. I don't think we were 24 points worse than Burnley in particular. I think Leeds were obviously the best team in the Championship last year and were probably outdone by their goalkeeper. But in terms of transfer business, I think Sunderland have probably had the best window of the three in terms of quality brought in, but I think Leeds had a better starting point. I kind of have them similar in terms of where I expect them to finish this season. I think both will be in the bottom 5 or 6 teams. Why do you have Leeds stronger than Sunderland?
Purely based on the fact we had a stronger team last year. I think we had less to do in the window, and I think we have done quite well in the window. I'd like to see a little bit more up front, particularly. I just think the players we brought in I know the keeper yesterday wasn't great, but I think he's a top quality keeper, and we've added strength in depth in centre half, and I think we've got a really strong midfield. I think if we do piece together that final third, I think we've got a really good chance of competing in this league.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you go department through department, I think Sunderland are still going to bring in 2 to 3 players by the time the window's closed. I think they'll probably bring in a centre half. They're probably going to bring in a left or right winger, and they're probably also, I think they might bring in an experienced striker as well. But let's go through the team. Goalkeeper, I think we've both strengthened well there. Robin Roofs looks like a good goalkeeper. He's obviously less well known than your goalkeeper. In defence, I think Leeds have a really strong defence. Do you think your players from the Championship will translate to the Premier League? Are you worried about players that you've had for a while, whether or not they'll adjust, or do you think your defence is good enough as is to, concede less than 55 goals, which is probably what you need to stay up?
Yeah, I think with Perry in net, definitely. I think if we had Meslier in net, I'd be struggling. I think last year he cost us 15 points quite easily. I think without him, we'd have walked the division. I worry about Stroke because I think he did well in the Premier League last time, but it's whether he can do that again. And it's the same story with Rodon. He was good enough. He was fantastic in the Championship last year, and it's whether he can make that step up. And I think Bogle too, we saw when he was there with Sheffield United that he wasn't the best. Like, he's phenomenal going forwards, but I do worry a bit about him defensively.
Yeah, I would sort of agree with Bogle. When you've had players that have been in the Premier League and then they've struggled and you get them back in, it's the same reason why you didn't keep a hold of Firpo at left back. It wasn't good enough to play in the Premier League. You lose him. So Bogle will be a really, really interesting one. And I think you were linked with Trey Hume as well. I think you were potentially going to poach some players from Sunderland if we didn't go up. Are there any in that Sunderland team, particularly in defence, Trey Hume possibly being one that you would have liked to have seen through the door?
I like Ballard. I think his goal, that header at Wembley, that was just prime.
The header at the Stadium Light, you mean?
Sorry, Stadium Light, yeah, in the semi-final. That's just what you need. I think I like the look to your left back. I think our left back's a position that we've never been able to nail down. Firpo in the Premier League just not up to it, and it's sad because he became a bit of a cult hero at Leeds. sort of the career arc he had. He wasn't good enough in the Premier League, but in the Championship going forwards, he was next level. Yeah, I'd have liked to see us poach possibly our left back if you'd have stayed down. But unfortunately for me, you won the Champions League, you won the playoffs.
Yeah, well, Sirkin actually probably isn't even going to be playing this season that much because we've replaced him and he's been injured. I think, though, if I was going to put Sunderland ahead of Leeds anyway, I think the middle of the park, I think Sunderland looks stronger than Leeds. I think Xhaka is the best signing of the newly promoted teams. I don't think anybody expects a newly promoted team to sign a player his level. And then Habib Diarra, that was a player that you were linked with. £30 million brought him in. Siddiqui, you were also linked with. We brought him in. So you've got the Xhaka, who's got that nous, the experience. He's a bit of a goal threat. You pair him with two players that are just energy in there, and it feels like Sunderland's midfield is really balanced. And then obviously behind them, you've got players like Enzo Lefebvre, who I think should be playing, but isn't right now. Dan Neil, who was our captain last season. Chris Rigg as well in there. Sunderland got a lot of options in there. And I feel like I look at Leeds' midfield. I don't mind, Sean Longstaff. I think Tanaka's a good player. I think Anton Stack's a very, very good player. But I think Sunderland I would rather have Sunderland's midfield than Leeds' midfield. I don't know whether or not you feel the same, but that's where I am with it.
I think that the Xhaka signing caught me completely off guard. When I saw that was happening, I didn't quite believe it. And I think adding him shows that great ambition. And he will really, really shore up that midfield. And like you say, I was getting a bit annoyed with you at the start of the window, adding Siddiqui and Diarra, two players which we courted quite strongly and kind of expected us to sign. I think the question mark for me is Gruev. I think yesterday at Arsenal, he didn't have the best day out in the middle of the park. I think when you've got Ampadu in there, it's a different story. Stark, I think he's been a great addition, and Tanaka for me was the best midfielder in the league last year. So I think we had again a good starting point, and I'm hoping we've built on that enough. I like the signing of Sean Longstaff. I think it was nice to add a bit of Premier League quality. But then when you match him up against Xhaka, there's no competition really. I think Xhaka wins that by an absolute mile.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we don't like to talk well of Newcastle players on this podcast, this video. So, boo, Sean Longstaff. We don't like him. In terms of the forward line, I feel like both Sunderland and Leeds and Burnley, for that matter, have not got top-level forward lines. I think Sunderland's is very young. And, Mayenda is 20. Isidore, I think, is 23, 24. They've brought in Mark Gio Ogui. I always get his name wrong, but the lad in from Chelsea, he's 19 years old. And then we've got Simon Adingra, who is 23. I think he has a little bit of Premier League experience. Chemston Talby, they've brought in on the right. He's 19 years old, so he's very young. And then we've got Patrick Roberts in reserve. It feels like Sunderland definitely need a couple of bodies up there and a bit of experience. And then I look at Leeds. I don't love the signing of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I don't love Joel Peru being relied on to be a Premier League striker. I think Willie Nonto, I'm not convinced by him. To be honest, I really liked him when you're in the Premier League last, but I feel like he's regressed over the last couple of years. Dan James, we know that he's quick and he's a threat in the Championship, but again, he needs to prove that he can do it in the Premier League. I sort of look at both, and you can put Burnley in there as well. I'm not convinced by theirs. We'll not talk too much about them, though. But I think our goal scoring between the three newly promoted teams, that is the area that's going to cost us this season.
100%. I think Pirro is completely unproven at this level, particularly in our system. I don't know how he fits. He's we saw at Arsenal yesterday. The ball just never stuck up front, and I know they're probably the best, if not second best team in the league. I don't think we've got the quality there. I think Willie Nonto he was very good in the Premier League last time around. I was quite surprised to see that we kept hold of him. But like you say, has he regressed? His output for the past couple of years hasn't been good. Dan James, we know, is a pace merchant, but that step up in the Premier League, can he make it? I'm not convinced. Then we come to your squad. I think Isidore, he was another shining light, same as Mayenda. I think I'd have liked to have seen us sign Mayenda had you not gone up. And I do like the addition of Adrinja. It's just, again, whether he can make that step up, because obviously he was out of favour at Brighton. Is he going to be good enough for Sunderland? I'm not sure, but I think he puts you in a really, really good position.
Yeah, well, I think at Brighton, he's Matoma's back up at Brighton. It's not You're just unfortunately coming up against one of the best wingers who's ahead of you. I want to talk now a little bit about kind of football generally and the state of play, because Leeds and Sunderland were in the Championship last season, and we were different in the sense that Leeds are a parachute payment team. I think Leeds had far more pressure to get up than Sunderland, because obviously if you miss the second season, you go into the third season, your parachutes come down. So it was crucial Leeds went up. Whereas Sunderland did it from a really low squad cost point of view. They did it in the right way, as I suppose experts would put it, where you sell big players, you make a profit. But are you worried that we basically have three leagues now? You have the Premier League, then you have the where Sunderland will be and where Leeds are, where you've got these far too good for the Championship, but the gap is too big to the Premier League. And you've got these in the middle where if Leeds or Sunderland got relegated next season, they're just going to be favourites to get promoted again. And then you've got the Championship teams, your Bristol Cities, your Coventries, who just struggle to take that step up, and it's really hard for them to match the promoted teams. Feels to me like the system's broken right now.
100%. I think you've seen for the past couple of years, the Championship teams that come down go straight back up. I mean, obviously, Ipswich and Sunderland have broken that mould, but it's just time and again. You've got the top six that just stay up there, apart from Manchester United, which I'm very much enjoying their downfall. And then you've got that middle pack of your Villas, your Newcastle Uniteds, your Brightons that are trying to get into that top six, but because of PSR and the way it is, they can't compete. And then you've got your bottom of the Premier League, top of the Championship, where there's not that much difference between them. And I think it'll be interesting to see this season when Leeds come up against the likes of West Ham, what happens. Obviously, had a really positive result against West Ham. Can we do the same? And I like to think we can. But I think it just goes to show there's not too much of a difference between that top end of the Championship versus bottom end of the Premier League. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
See, I think there's a chasm for me. Like, even Leeds on Monday night against Everton, while I thought Leeds played really, really well and I thought they deserved the win, the reality is they didn't create many chances. It's a dodgy penalty, which is what gets them. I can't recall Pickford having to make all too many saves in the game. And then I look at Sunderland West Ham. Sunderland obviously win that game 3-0, but they also created one grade A chance, one top level chance that they missed, and the 3 goals they scored were fantastic. 2 headers that were ridiculous headers and 1 finish. But I feel like the gap is so big that everything has to go right for Sunderland to win that game. And I feel like everything pretty much had to go right for Leeds to win that game. I mean, the game's a draw that you played against Everton, settled by a penalty that was contentious, but fair enough, it got it, Leeds scored it, so fair play. I think the gap is massive. When you've got Everton and West Ham at the low, playing poorly, and Sunderland and Leeds beat them respectively, I think still don't create a lot of chances, and that's the major red flag with these teams.
It is. I think Monday night for Everton, I think for me, we were much the better side. I think we played them off the park for large parts of it, but chances-wise, we created next to nothing. There was a couple of half chances from Nonto and Dan James, but that's the difference. Is you can have all the possession in the world, but if you can't create the chances, you're not going to win games. And hopefully, both of us can take our chances this year and get enough wins. I think you need 9 wins to stay up and pick up a couple of points here and there. It's going to be a tough season, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, it is hard to, I look at the fixture list, and obviously we've had a really kind start. We've played West Ham, who I think will be down towards the bottom. We've also played Burnley yesterday. Recording this on Sunday, so when this goes out on Monday, it won't be yesterday. But by the way, we played Burnley, and it was a nothing game. Like, both teams created one major chance in the game. Sunderland missed theirs. Burnley scored. I mean, theirs isn't even a major chance, but Burnley scored theirs, and then they get a late goal on the counter-attack. It's a nothing game, though, settled by who takes the chance. And I think in the Championship, you get, especially if you're a good team like Sunderland and Leeds, where you actually probably get 5 or 6 chances in a game. And in the Premier League, you are fortunate if you get 2. And that is the difference in quality. Is even when Everton, I'll use that Everton game on Monday night, Everton don't play well. Leeds play well, but Leeds still, I don't remember having like a clear one-on-one with the goalkeeper or like a hit into the post.
We didn't.
Don't do it. And that's the concerning thing. That's why I think it's going to be so hard for these teams to stay up.
Yeah, I think, and even with the penalty decision, I think it was one of those that if you get the on-field decision like we did, VAR's not going to overturn it. But if if the referee didn't give that, it's never been overturned, and it would have remained not a penalty. Yeah, even with the Arsenal game yesterday, like we had one chance from a corner, Stroud hits it straight at the keeper. 2 minutes later, Arsenal are ahead. It's just those fine margins, and not saying we were going to do anything against Arsenal yesterday. We got an absolute pasting, but it's just them fine margins, and I don't know if we've got enough currently up front to make those fine margins go in our favour.
If you compare Sunderland's business, like Sunderland have spent a lot of money. We obviously sold players as well. So we lost Joe, we lost Tommy Watson. And we've also lost Pierre Ekwa, who brought in a little bit of money as well. So we've lost a few, but we've spent a lot. And Leeds haven't spent, I think they're about 50-ish million less than Sunderland. Leeds also haven't bought many players, if any players, over the 20 million mark, whereas Sunderland have actually done that, a few players over that number. Are you surprised that Sunderland have outspent Leeds?
Yes. Yeah, I am. I thought, particularly the 49ers coming in, that they had a bit of a war chest behind them. And I know I've got to stay in the PSR rules, but like you say, the only player that comes to mind that was spent over 20 million on is Noran Okunfor from AC Milan. And we've missed out on players. I'd love to see us sign Pajau. I thought he was going to be a fantastic addition, but unfortunately he chose Marseille. But yeah, I am surprised we've not had the spending power of Sunderland. But it has been nice to see any of the promoted sides like yourselves going up there and spending money and making a go of it. I think the squad building has been great.
What would you, if you were comparing the two right now, in terms of managers, we'll start there. I look at Daniel Farker and I see him as being quite I don't mean this in a harsh way, but like one-dimensional in a way. I think he has a style of play that he likes to stick to and principles he likes to stick to. I look at the Everton game as a prime example at home. That to me looked like a Leeds in the Championship game. It looked very similar to when I think Sunderland got a 0-0 draw at Leeds a couple of years ago. And it looks similar to that where Leeds control the game or are dominant, but actually they don't create all that much and they struggle to get through the low block, as the football hipsters say. What I suppose what I'm trying to say is that I look at Regis Lebris and I think that he is somebody you saw in the playoffs. He's willing to change. He's not married to a specific way of playing. Does it concern you that Daniel Farker, A, has failed in the Premier League before, but B, he seems sort of married to these core principles that may hurt you in certain games?
No, 100%. I think he's failed twice in the Premier League. And I think we saw at the back end of last season all the rumours flying around about Farker, whether he was going to lose his job, even though he did win the league in the end. I see a scenario where we're sacking him in December. If we're not playing well, if he's, like you're saying, sticking to his system, I think we saw it again yesterday. Just to come back to the Arsenal game, he stuck with a very similar system against Everton, and we paid for it. I think manager-wise, with the adaptability of Regis, I think you possibly have the better manager. He's unproven at this level, but you've got to get your chance at some point.
Yeah, I mean, is unproven better than proven bad?
That is the question.
That is the question. What players do you look at, certainly in terms of new arrivals at Sunderland? Is there anyone that you think, I wish we'd signed him, I wish we'd been all over that one? I mean, we talk about Xhaka, maybe leave him aside. Is there anyone else we signed where you thought, that would have been a really good bit of business?
Habib Diarra, he's the one. I think him in midfield, I think he's a top quality signing. I think he would have really helped us out a lot.
Do you think, is there anyone from the team previous? I mean, we talked about Dennis Sirkin earlier, but is there anyone that Sunderland have got? Like, you talk about Mayenda as well, I suppose. But are there other players that you're, I don't know if envious is the word, but think, they're a problem? I mean, if Sunderland were playing Leeds tomorrow, where is the game won and lost from a Sunderland perspective?
I'd single out Dan Neil, I know he's
not playing currently.
He's not playing anymore.
No, he's just been on the bench the opening 2 games.
I see. I'd probably pick out Isidore. I know we spoke about him before, but I think he's just got a bit of that X factor.
Yeah, scored that goal as well at Leeds last season, didn't he? From
He
pretty
was a
much.
handful at Leeds, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. What about the crowds? Because people, I think it's a lazy narrative. I've got to be honest. I hear it about the Stadium of Light, and I hear it about Ellen Road in particular. The hard places to go, the crowd makes such a difference. Blah, etc., etc. What do you make of that as a narrative? Do you think that do you think Leeds having a pretty vociferous crowd and Sunderland having a vociferous crowd, do you think that makes any difference to our chances to survive, or do you think it's basically easy narrative for pundits to pick out?
I think it's an easy narrative. I think in the games that are potentially 50-50, like the Everton game, for example, I think it will make a difference. But these are seasoned Premier League players. They know what a crowd is going to be like and know what to expect. And I can't imagine it makes too much of a difference having a hostile crowd versus a home crowd.
What do you make of, like, I find Sunderland is when it's good, it's good. And then, if we say against West Ham went 1-0 down and things were going against us, that crowd can turn quite quickly. Do you think the Leeds fan base is in tune with this Leeds team and would stick by it if they were, say, 2-0 down after 15 minutes in a home game? Or do you think that the crowd would go toxic?
Yeah, we'd be toxic. We'd be all over them. It was a bit weird last season because we expected it to go up and to walk the league. There wasn't that sense of jeopardy at all last year. I think it'll be interesting this year when we are, for example, 2-0 down to Sunderland at home. And I do think we'd be expecting to win that game.
Yeah.
So I think the crowd would be all over the players, and it does have the potential to turn quite toxic.
What do you think, just as we sort of wrap this up in a bow, we'll talk a little bit about transfers in. What do you think Leeds will do from now at the end of the window? What are you expecting to see?
Oh, I'd love to see us sign a striker. I mean, we signed Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but surely he can't be it. I think, for me, he's a signing that if he stays, and it's a big if, he stays fit, it's a good bit of business. But for me, he can't be our number one striker just because of that injury record. He's not been good since 2022. He's a bit essentially Bamford. So I'd love to see us sign another striker.
You brought in like 2 free transfers up front. That's interesting. The Nemecha's come in. I think he's an all right player. I don't think he's a world beater, though. He's not going to score you 10 Premier League goals.
No,
and DCL, again, last season he was fit and you think he scored 3 goals. Then you've got Peru, who we've talked about, and whether or not we trust that he'll score goals. Is it likely that Leeds will go there and add a 4th striker in there? Because that moves, that you only play one up front, that changes your depth chart quite a bit. And it means that, say, a Calvert-Lewin or an Nemecha goes, or a Peru, I'm not going to get minutes anymore.
Yeah, and they'd want out. I don't think, definitely from a fan's point of view, there's a lot of noise around getting in another striker. And a winger as well, potentially. I think Dan James is good. Is he Premier League good? I think we just need a bit of flair up there. I do like the signing of Okafor, but I'm not sure if he's enough to see us over the line. So those have been, I think, defensively, keeper, midfield, I think we're fine. It's just that final third piece.
Fair
I think
enough.
it's possibly a similar story for Sunderland.
Yeah, Sunderland, Ballard got injured yesterday, so that's a blow, because if he's out for any period of time, he is our best centre-back, and it changed the game. He went off at the 8th minute, and it changed the game completely. Sunderland desperately need another centre-back right now, just to cover in case there is injuries. Currently, we're playing Jensen Sealt, who's a championship. He didn't even play in the championship. He was injured. So that's a concern. The forward, I think Sunderland's forward line is slightly better than Leeds' forward line, but I still don't think Sunderland's forward line's like great. I think like Mayenda, Isidore, and Gio, the 3 of them are okay, but they're very young. My concern is just like you get into the dog days of the season. Can you rely on them to score goals? I think Sunderland's wingers, Mundell's injured right now, but I think Mundell probably could play in the Premier League. Dingra, I think, is a Premier League level player. The right side, I'm not so sure on. We've got a 19-year-old player in there who's done okay. Patrick Roberts, who's, I think, probably deserving of some game time, but he's definitely not a starting Premier League right winger. So that I can see why the club are looking at that right side, and it looks like that's possibly where we're going to add. But I think both, and put Burnley in there as well. I don't think Burnley have got a fantastic front 3 or front attacking lineup, and I think that is the area that's hardest to recruit. I mean, you'll go to say Wolves, they've got Jorgen Strand Larsen up there, who is like unbelievable. Like he's a top player. You look at Bournemouth, and they've got Evan Nielsen up there. They've spent 50 million quid on him. Like he's an unbelievable player. We as clubs can't buy players like at that level right now.
No, yes.
Even like Brighton with like Danny Welbeck, Everton have brought in that Tieno Barry, and they've got Beto in there. All these teams have got players that they've spent a fortune on for their front line. It is so hard to compete with that when you're coming up and you have to correct other areas of your team.
Yeah, we're stuck with Joel Pirro up front. I mean, I like him, but is he a top Premier League striker? Not for me.
No, probably not. Where do you see the season going for both Leeds and Sunderland then? I mean, at the start you said you think Leeds have got a better chance than Sunderland. Or what makes you think Leeds have got a better chance, and where do you think actually both clubs will finish come the end of the season?
What makes me think, it's possibly bias. If I'm being perfectly honest, like as a Leeds fan, I've been going for years. I think it's just having that confidence in your team. When I look at the two teams on paper, I think we are very, very similar. I think success for Leeds and Sunderland is 17th, and 17th will do. I think there's quite a lot of bad teams in the Championship. I'm looking at Wolves. I'm looking at Brentford potentially with all the turmoil there. Looking at West Ham, if Potter doesn't sort them out, that potentially they could be going down. So I think there are teams that we can be better than to keep us up, and we'll have to be better than two of them.
Yeah, that's always I look at the Premier League and I think right, I thought Brentford, but then they win yesterday against Aston Villa, and to all intents and purposes played well. I look at West Ham and I think West Ham are bang in trouble, but the problem is their season is unravelling so early that they have time to replace and bring in Sean Dyche, and everything will be rosy again. Everton, I was a bit concerned about after last week, but obviously they've won today and they look pretty good in the new stadium. They've got a bit of momentum because of that. Wolves have had a dodgy start this season, but then after those teams, it's a struggle to see anyone else really being in trouble there, other than obviously the newly promoted three. I think it's going to be really, really hard to capitalize. I mean, you just need one of the established teams to have an absolute stinker.
You do. And I mean, you saw it last season with Man United and Spurs. Like, they still didn't go down. They had awful seasons and still kept their head above water.
Yeah, still found a way to just about stay up. So I suppose that just about sums it up, doesn't it? Is there anything else really to touch on before we say goodbye? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'd just thank you for having me on. It's been nice to talk about Leeds and Sunderland.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously we've been cousins, same age, and really in our life after like the age of about 10, Sunderland and Leeds have not often really been like competing. Like obviously the last couple of seasons have been competing for promotion. I know Sunderland didn't, to be fair, a couple of years ago, but it's not often though we're in the same position. It's always been very opposite. Leeds are in League One, Sunderland in Premier League, Sunderland's in League One, Leeds are in the Premier League. It's weird that now both clubs are finally reached the point.
Mirrored. It's been nice because I think we had 16 years out of the Premier League. We dropped down all the way to League One as you did. I think it's quite a nice journey, and the fact that we are together in the Premier League now, where we belong, we both believe.
Yeah,
it's quite nice and quite interesting. It's going to be an interesting season.
Yeah, it is. And as we sit here in late August, there's 36 games left to play for both. It's going to be very interesting to see if either of them can stay up, and hopefully both of them. It would be really good if two of them established teams would be relegated this season and actually shake up the pyramid and get it away from what it is right now.
So I'll go on record. My three for relegation is Burnley, Wolves, and Brentford. They're my three.
You're going Brentford. So you're not going West Ham?
Not going West Ham. I do think, like you say, it's too early in the season to call that. And then it's got Sean Dyche being all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does a little bit. I think West Ham might go. I think it'll probably be Burnley, West Ham, and then one of Sunderland or Leeds. That's where I see it. But it'll be interesting. I'll get daggers from the Sunderland fans for potentially putting us in there. So screw it. I'll put Leeds in there. Leeds can finish third bottom. Sunderland can finish fourth bottom.
If I'm being honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Leeds third bottom. So.
Yeah, hopefully it's just close. It would be nice if we had an actual relegation battle. You know,
It
last
was.
season, the title and the relegation battle were done by like Christmas.
Oh, that annoyed me so much last season. That the fact that Southampton beat us in the playoffs and absolutely screwed the place out, I think we'd have given it a much better go.
Yeah, they spent money though. To be fair, they did spend like 100 million.
They did.
So yeah, let that be a warning. Spending money doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be all right. Anyway, thanks Tom for joining us. Thanks everyone for watching. Please comment your predictions for the relegation 3. I mean, we're only 2 games in, and people probably won't change. But yeah, let us know if you think both Sunderland and Leeds can stay up, or will it just be Leeds going down? And obviously Sunderland staying up on a Sunderland YouTube channel. Thanks everyone for watching though, and we'll catch you for the next video whenever I can be bothered to do it.